The stars shone brightly outside the viewport of Outpost Sentinel-7. Commander James Harris stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the endless void of space. For 20 years, humans had been part of the Galactic Council, living in peace with 30 other alien species. 20 years of trade, cultural exchange, and growing trust. Harris had spent the last 5 years commanding this outpost on the edge of Council space. His job was simple: watch the border, report any problems, and maintain good relations with passing alien ships. The work was usually boring. Today, it was anything but. "Commander, you need to see this," said Lieutenant Emma Reed, her voice shaking. She handed him a data pad with a flashing red alert symbol. Harris took the pad, his face growing dark as he read. "Confirm this," he ordered. "Already did, sir. 3 times. It's real." The report was from Horizon 4, a small human colony with about 5,000 people. Farmers, miners, and their families who wanted to build a life on the frontier. The colony had sent a distress signal 12 hours ago. By the time the nearest patrol ship arrived, everyone was dead. "Play the recording," Harris said, his voice tight. Reed pulled up the video on the main screen. Harris and his bridge crew watched in horror as the attack unfolded. Ships with black, jagged hulls descended on the colony. Creatures in dark armor poured out, firing indiscriminately at buildings, vehicles, and people trying to run away. The colony's small defense force fought back bravely, but was quickly overwhelmed. "The Void," whispered Officer Michael Torres. "It has to be them." Everyone knew about the Void, a mysterious faction that lived beyond Council space. The Council had signed a treaty with them 50 years ago, establishing a clear border that neither side would cross. Until now. "These are the monsters we've been told to watch for," Harris said. "And they just killed thousands of our people." "Sir," Reed said, "the Council has called an emergency meeting about the attack. It's happening now." Harris nodded. "Put it on screen." The video feed showed the Grand Council chamber on Centauri Prime. Representatives from all species sat in a large circle. The human ambassador, Diana Wells, was speaking, her voice filled with barely controlled anger. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not an accident. This was a deliberate massacre of a peaceful colony. The treaty line has been broken. The Council must take immediate action against the Void. The Varel representative, a tall blue-skinned being, stood up. "Ambassador Wells, while we sympathize with your loss, rushing into military action could trigger a full-scale war. A war has already begun," Wells shouted. "They killed 5,000 humans." The Grath representative, a short, 4-armed creature, spoke next. "Perhaps your colony was too close to the border. Perhaps there was provocation we don't know about." Harris felt his blood boil as he watched. The Horizon 4 colony was well within Council space. There had been no provocation. One by one, other representatives spoke. Some offered sympathy, others suggested investigations or diplomatic outreach to the Void. Not one supported immediate action. "They're stalling," Torres said in disbelief. "No," Harris replied, his voice cold. "They're afraid." On screen, Ambassador Wells was now shouting. "While you debate, the killers of 5,000 humans are going unpunished. How many more must die before you act?" The head of the Council, an ancient Solari named Dalon, raised his hand for silence. "We will send a diplomatic mission to discuss this incident with the Void leadership. In the meantime, we advise all Council members to avoid escalation. This meeting is adjourned." The feed cut off. The bridge of Sentinel-7 was deadly quiet. "That's it," Reed finally said. "A diplomatic mission, after what we just saw." Harris turned to his crew. They were all human. They had all watched their people being slaughtered, and they had all just witnessed the Council doing nothing about it. "The Council has made its position clear," Harris said. "They won't fight. They won't even defend us." He walked to his command chair and sat down, thinking. Humans had worked hard to fit into galactic society. They had held back their aggressive tendencies, their strong emotions, their ancient warrior instincts. They had played by the rules, even when other species looked down on them as primitive newcomers. Harris had been there when Earth joined the Council. He remembered the pride he felt. Humanity had finally taken its place among the stars. They weren't alone anymore. They had allies. Or so they thought. "Sir, what do we do now?" Reed asked. Harris looked at each member of his crew. He saw the same thing in all their eyes. Rage. Not blind fury, but the cold, focused anger that had driven humans to overcome every challenge in their long history. "The Void broke the line," Harris said. "They crossed the border and killed our people. The Council won't act, but we will." He stood up. "Lieutenant Reed, send a message to Earth. Include the attack footage and the Council meeting." "What should the message say, sir?" Harris thought for a moment. "The line is broken. They won't act. We must." The crew stared at him. They knew what he was suggesting. Humanity had promised to follow Council rules, to let the Council handle conflicts. But the Council had just shown they wouldn't protect humans. "This is bigger than our outpost," Harris continued. "The entire Council has failed us. But before Earth can respond, we need more information. Torres, I want everything we have on Void ships and weapons. Reed, contact our other outposts along the border, quietly. Find out if there are any other attacks happening." As his crew jumped into action, Harris looked back at the stars. Humanity had buried its warlike nature under layers of civilization and diplomacy. They had shown only their peaceful face to the galaxy. But deep inside every human was the spirit of their ancestors who fought and survived against impossible odds. The Void had just broken the treaty line, but they had also broken something else, the chains that humanity had placed on itself. "They think they know humans," Harris said quietly to himself. "They have no idea what's coming." In his quarters later that night, Harris watched the Horizon 4 footage one more time. He stopped on a frame showing a small child's toy, a teddy bear, lying in the dust next to its dead owner. For the first time since the news had arrived, Harris allowed himself to feel the full weight of his rage. His hand shook as he closed the file. The line was broken, and humanity's patience had run out. The message from Commander Harris reached Earth within hours. Government officials gathered in an emergency meeting at the United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. The room buzzed with angry voices as the recording of the Horizon 4 massacre played on the large screen. President Laura Wilson sat silently, her face a mask of control. When the video ended, she stood up. 5,000 dead. Men, women, and children. And the Council suggests we send diplomats. Her voice was steady but cold. The room fell quiet. "What are our options?" she asked. Defense Minister Robert Jackson cleared his throat. "We could follow the Council's lead and try diplomacy first." "While the Void attacks another colony," General Martinez shot back. "We've lost enough people already." "The Council has made their position clear," said Ambassador Wells, who had just returned from the failed Council meeting. "They fear war with the Void more than they value human lives." President Wilson looked at each person in the room. "If we act alone, we risk our standing in the Council. If we do nothing, we risk more human lives." She paused. "And we show the galaxy that humans can be killed without consequences." The room was silent again. Everyone understood what was at stake. "There is another option," said Minister Jackson. "Someone who might have a solution." "Who?" asked the president. "Admiral Thomas Gray." Several people shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Admiral Gray was a legend, but also controversial. He had led Earth's fleet for 15 years before retiring 5 years ago, after disagreeing with Council military restrictions. "Gray's a warmonger," someone muttered. "Gray's a strategist," Jackson corrected. "And he understands both human capability and alien thinking better than anyone else." President Wilson nodded. "Bring him in." Admiral Thomas Gray lived in a small cabin by a lake in the mountains. His hair had gone completely white, but his tall frame was still strong and his blue eyes sharp. When the government transport landed near his home, he was chopping wood. "They finally did it, didn't they?" he asked as Minister Jackson stepped out of the transport. "Did what?" Jackson asked, surprised. "Someone finally crossed the line." Gray set down his axe. And the council did nothing. Inside his cabin, Gray watched the Horizon 4 footage and the council meeting without comment. When it was over, he asked one question. "What did Commander Harris say?" Jackson repeated Harris's message. "The line is broken. They won't act. We must." Gray smiled slightly. "Smart man, this Harris." He stood and walked to a map of the galaxy on his wall. The council never understood humans. They saw our cooperation as weakness, our restraint as fear. He turned to Jackson. "You want me to come back and lead a response?" "Yes, even if it means breaking from the council." Jackson hesitated. "We hope it won't come to that." Gray laughed. A short, harsh sound. "It already has." The moment they refused to defend Horizon 4, the council broke their promise to us. He traced a line on the map. The void broke the treaty line. Now we must show both the void and the council what that means. "Will you help us?" Jackson asked. Gray nodded. "I'll need complete authority over military operations, and I'll need Dr. Anna Miller, the weapons designer. She's been working on civilian projects for years." "Not entirely civilian," Gray said with a meaningful look. "Call her. Tell her it's time to open the locked drawer." Within a week, Admiral Gray was back in command of Earth's fleet. His first orders surprised everyone. "We're not sending our ships to the border yet," he announced to his officers. "First, we prepare. The Void and the Council both think they know what humans are capable of. They don't." In a secret facility beneath the lunar surface, Dr. Anna Miller worked with a team of engineers, a short woman with quick hands and quicker mind. She had been waiting for this day. "Project Berserker is ready for deployment," she told Gray when he visited. She led him to a testing chamber where a soldier stood wearing what looked like standard combat armor. "Show him," Miller said to the soldier. The man nodded and pressed a control on his wrist. The armor's surface shifted, revealing hidden weapon systems. But more importantly, sensors along the spine and chest began to glow. "The suit links to the soldier's adrenal system," Miller explained. "When human adrenaline spikes, like in combat, the suit channels that energy to boost power. The angrier the soldier, the more powerful the suit becomes." "You've weaponized human emotion," Gray said with admiration. Miller nodded, something the aliens never understood about us. They see our emotions as a weakness. We know they're our strength. News of human military preparations reached the council quickly. The Xilare Council head Delon called an emergency session. "We've received reports that humans are mobilizing their fleet and deploying new weapons," Delon announced. "This goes against our previous decision to pursue diplomatic solutions with the Void." Ambassador Wells stood. "Earth respects the Council's right to choose diplomacy. We are merely ensuring the safety of our remaining colonies. These preparations suggest offensive, not defensive intentions," said the Virel representative. "Like the defensive intentions that saved Horizon 4. Wells shot back. The chamber fell silent. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. Admiral Gray, speaking from his command ship. "Council members," he said, his voice echoing in the chamber. "For 20 years, humans have followed your rules. We held back our true capabilities. We respected your fear of war." His eyes swept the room. "You mistook our patience for weakness. You're about to meet the real humanity." The Grath representative stood up angrily. "Is this a threat, Admiral?" "No," Gray replied calmly. "It's a fact. The Void broke the treaty line and murdered our people. You chose to do nothing. We choose to defend ourselves. If you attack the Void without Council approval, there will be severe sanctions against Earth," Delon warned. Gray smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Do what you must. We'll do the same. After the transmission ended, the Council erupted in angry debate. No species had ever openly defied the Council before. At Earth's Defense Headquarters, President Wilson made the announcement to her cabinet. As of today, Earth has formally withdrawn from the Galactic Council's military treaty. We remain open to peaceful relations, but will no longer be bound by their restrictions. She turned to Admiral Gray. You have authorization to begin Operation Righteous Fury. Gray nodded. The Void thinks they can kill humans without consequences. The Council thinks they can ignore human deaths. His eyes hardened. Both are about to learn a very painful lesson. Across human space, ships moved into position. Soldiers donned their new combat suits. Weapons that had been hidden for years were brought into the open. Humanity had waited. Humanity had watched. Humanity had held back. But the line was broken. And now, the beast was awake. The human fleet moved through space like silent hunters. 50 warships, their hulls painted matte black to blend with the void. Admiral Gray stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Retribution, watching as they approached the first target. Void outpost detected, reported his tactical officer. They don't appear to have noticed us yet. Gray nodded. That's the advantage of technologies we never shared with the Council. He turned to his communications officer. Send the message to all ships. Operation Righteous Fury begins now. Across the fleet, soldiers prepared for battle. In the troop carrier Vengeance, Commander James Harris addressed his strike team. Each soldier wore one of Dr. Miller's new combat suits, the neural links glowing softly against their skin. The Void thinks they can kill humans without fear, Harris said. Today we teach them fear. The soldiers nodded, their faces grim with purpose. Many had lost friends or family on Horizon 4. Remember your training with the new suits, Harris continued. The anger you feel is natural. The suits will channel it, make you stronger. But stay in control. Focused rage, not blind fury. The attack began with shocking speed. Human ships appeared seemingly out of nowhere, their stealth systems rendering them invisible until the last moment. The Void outpost, a black jagged structure floating in space, barely had time to raise alarms before the first strikes hit. On the Council world of Centauri Prime, alien representatives watched in stunned silence as reports came in. The humans have launched a massive attack on Void territory, announced the Varel representative. Initial reports indicate they've already destroyed 3 outposts. How? Demanded the Graph representative. Their ships were nowhere near Void space yesterday. They have technologies we weren't aware of, admitted a military advisor. Stealth systems more advanced than anything we've seen. Council head Dalon looked troubled. We knew humans were resourceful, but this. He shook his head. This suggests they've been developing military capabilities in secret for years, while pretending to follow our restrictions, added another representative angrily. Ambassador Wells, still present despite Earth's withdrawal from the military treaty, spoke up. We developed defenses as any prudent species would. We simply hoped never to need them. Her eyes swept the chamber. Until our allies abandoned us. At the main Void forward base, chaos reigned. Black armored Void soldiers rushed to defensive positions as alarms blared. Their commander, a tall figure with pale gray skin and red eyes, demanded updates. Human ships have breached our outer defenses, reported an officer. They're using attack patterns we've never seen before. Our predictive systems can't anticipate their movements. Impossible, growled the commander. Humans are predictable. The Council assured us their military was primitive and restrained. The Council was wrong, said the officer as another explosion rocked the base. Outside, human dropships descended like angry wasps. From one of them, Commander Harris led his strike team toward the base's main entrance. Void defenders fired energy weapons at the approaching humans, but the shots seemed to glance off their armor. Form up, Harris ordered. Breach pattern Alpha. The soldiers moved with perfect coordination, advancing under fire. When a particularly heavy barrage came their way, Harris saw something remarkable happen. The soldiers' armor began to glow brighter, pulsing with energy as their adrenaline surged. Return fire from the humans intensified, powered by their controlled anger. Inside the base, the Void Commander watched the security feeds with growing alarm. What is happening to their armor? It's getting stronger under attack. Unknown technology, replied his science officer. It seems to be feeding on their biological responses. The commander hissed in frustration. The council said humans suppress their emotions in battle. This is the opposite. On Centauri Prime, the council meeting had turned into a crisis session. New reports arrived by the minute, each more concerning than the last. The humans have taken 3 void bases in less than a day, reported a military advisor. Their ground troops are displaying combat effectiveness far beyond our estimates. They fight like... The Varel representative struggled for words. Like unchained predators. Council head Dalon turned to Ambassador Wells. This cannot continue. You must tell Admiral Gray to cease his attack immediately and return to diplomatic channels. Wells smiled coldly. I'm afraid Earth no longer recognizes the Council's authority in this matter. The time for diplomacy ended when you chose to do nothing after Horizon 4. The Void will retaliate, warned the Grath representative. This could spiral into a full galactic war. Perhaps you should have thought of that, Wells replied, before you decided our dead weren't worth defending. The Void did retaliate. 3 days after the human offensive began, a Void strike force bypassed the newly established human defenses and attacked the colony of New Eden. Unlike Horizon 4, New Eden was ready. Admiral Gray had positioned the destroyer Guardian near the colony. As Void ships appeared, the destroyer immediately engaged them. At the same time, ground defense units led by Dr. Miller herself activated a planetary shield system. From his command ship, Gray watched the battle unfold. Status report on New Eden, he ordered. The Void broke through Guardian's outer defense line, reported his tactical officer. But the ground shield is holding. Civilian casualties minimal. Gray nodded, his face grim but satisfied. The Void expected another easy massacre. Instead, they found teeth. The battle for New Eden lasted hours. When it ended, the colony still stood. The Void attackers had been destroyed or driven back. For the first time, a human settlement had successfully repelled a Void attack. News spread quickly. On human worlds, people celebrated. In council space, other species watched with growing unease. They're not just fighting back, said auxiliary observer to council head Dalon. They're winning. Dalon stared at the reports, his ancient face troubled. We misjudged them, he said quietly. All these years, we thought we were helping humans restrain their violent tendencies. He looked up. What if they were restraining themselves, and we just took credit for it? On the captured Void base, now serving as a forward human command post, Commander Harris received new orders from Admiral Gray. His team would lead an assault on the main Void fortress, where intelligence suggested their leadership was gathered. Harris briefed his soldiers, who now looked at him with a new respect. Their first victories had proven what humans could do when unleashed. The Void still doesn't understand what they've awakened, Harris told them. They broke the line and killed our people, thinking there would be no consequences. He checked his weapon. We are the consequences. Across human space, factories worked day and night producing more of Dr. Miller's combat suits. Ships that had been hidden in secret facilities joined the fleet. The fury of humanity, contained for so long, had been fully unleashed. And the galaxy watched in awe and terror as they realized a simple truth. They had never truly known humans at all. 2 weeks into Operation Righteous Fury, Admiral Gray received a strange message. He sat in his private quarters on the Retribution, reading it for the 3rd time. This makes no sense, he muttered. The message had come from a damaged Void ship captured near the border. Among its data files were records of weapon shipments from Council space to Void territories. weapons that had been used to attack Horizon 4. Gray called Dr. Anna Miller to his quarters. When she arrived, he showed her the files. "Could these be fake?" he asked. "A void trick to turn us against the Council." Miller studied the data carefully. "The authentication codes are genuine. These are real Council shipping records." She looked up, her eyes troubled. "But why would Council members arm the void against us?" Gray paced the room. "We need more information. Get a team to search all captured void bases for similar records." "Yes, Admiral." Miller hesitated. "If this is true, if the Council was involved in the Horizon 4 attack, then this war is bigger than we thought," Gray finished grimly. On the captured Void Forward base, Commander Harris supervised the final preparations for the assault on the main Void Fortress. His soldiers checked their equipment while engineers modified captured Void vehicles. Harris's second-in-command, Captain Lisa Ward, approached with a datapad. "Sir, we found something while scanning Void communication logs. You need to see this." The logs showed communications between Void commanders and an unknown source using Council encryption. The messages discussed human colonies, defensive capabilities, and response times. "They were gathering intelligence on us," Harris said, frowning. "But who was their Council contact?" Ward pointed to a specific message. "This one mentions Horizon 4 specifically. It says, 'Target selected for test. Minimal defenses. Maximum impact.'" Harris felt cold anger rise inside him. "Test. They killed 5,000 people as a test." "There's more, sir." Ward swiped to another message. "This one was sent just before the attack. Proceed with elimination. Council observers will monitor human response." Harris stared at the words, his hands shaking slightly. The attack wasn't just void aggression. It was planned, and the Council knew. He immediately sent the logs to Admiral Gray. On the Retribution, Gray called an emergency meeting with his top officers after receiving Harris's message. Combined with the weapons shipment records, a disturbing picture was emerging. "We've been played," Gray told them, his voice hard. "Some Council members have been working with the Void against us." "But why?" asked his operations officer. "Why provoke a war?" Dr. Miller, who had been analyzing all the evidence, spoke up. "Control. Look at these older messages we found." She displayed communications dating back years. "The Council has been afraid of humanity's potential since we joined. They saw us as unpredictable, too emotional, too adaptive." She brought up more files. "These are classified Council assessments of human capabilities. They recognize our potential for rapid technological advancement and military prowess. They feared what would happen if we ever felt threatened enough to develop our full capabilities. So they kept us restricted with treaties and regulations," Gray said, understanding dawning. "But some of them wanted more assurance that we could be controlled." Miller nodded. "They arranged the Horizon 4 massacre as a test. They wanted to see how we would respond to a direct attack. Would we follow Council procedures, or would we fight back on our own? And when we chose to fight," Gray began. "They learned exactly what they feared," Miller finished. "That humans unleash are a force they can't control." Gray stood up, his face resolute. "Inform President Wilson immediately, and prepare a message for all Council representatives. It's time for some truth." On Centauri Prime, the Council chamber erupted into chaos as Admiral Gray's transmission played. He presented all the evidence: weapons shipments, communications, the planning of the Horizon 4 test. "For years, we believed we were your allies," Gray's image said to the stunned representatives. "Instead, some of you conspired with the Void to test us, to control us, to keep us weak. 5,000 innocent humans died in your experiment." Ambassador Wells stood in the center of the chamber, her face a mask of cold fury. "Earth demands to know which Council members were involved in this conspiracy, and we demand justice for Horizon 4. Council head Delon appeared genuinely shocked. "These accusations are extremely serious. We must investigate." "Investigate," Wells interrupted. We've done the investigation for you. The evidence is clear. Several representatives began shouting at once. Some denied any knowledge of the conspiracy. Others accused humans of fabricating evidence to justify their military actions. Then something unexpected happened. The Xelith representative, from a species known for their honesty, stood up. "It is true," the Xelith said, silencing the room. "I was not directly involved, but I knew of the plan. Several council members feared humanity's potential and arranged the attack to test human response. They believed if humans could be provoked into breaking council rules, they could be declared dangerous and placed under stricter controls." The chamber exploded again, but now council members were turning on each other. Old alliances fractured as accusations flew. Some representatives, horrified by the revelation, publicly sided with humans. "The council is breaking apart," reported an observer to Admiral Gray. Gray nodded, just as the conspirators feared. They wanted to control us, but instead, they lost control of everything. Near the main Void Fortress, Commander Harris received new intel from Gray. The Void leaders had been promised protection and new territories in exchange for attacking human colonies. They were pawns too, Harris told his troops. But that doesn't excuse what they did to Horizon 4. "What are our orders, sir?" asked Captain Ward. "The mission remains the same. We take the fortress. But now we know to look for evidence linking Void leaders to specific council members." Harris looked at his soldiers, their combat suits glowing with controlled power, their faces determined. "The truth is bigger and uglier than we thought," he told them. "This wasn't just about a broken treaty line. This was about fear of what humanity might become. Some in the council would rather see thousands of us dead than let us reach our full potential." He checked his weapon. "Today we show them exactly why they were right to be afraid." As human forces prepared for the final assault on the Void Fortress, the galactic political landscape was transforming. The Council, once the unquestioned authority in the galaxy, had fractured into factions. Some members openly supported Earth. Others frantically tried to distance themselves from the conspiracy. In Earth's government chambers, President Wilson addressed her cabinet. "We face a turning point," she said. "The Council as we knew it is finished. But the galaxy still needs order, stability." "What are you suggesting?" asked Defense Minister Jackson. Wilson's eyes were determined. "When this war ends, and it will end with our victory, we build something better. Not a council that rules through fear and manipulation, but an alliance built on honesty and mutual respect." She looked at the latest reports from Admiral Gray's fleet. The conspirators thought they could keep humanity caged. Instead, they freed us to reshape the galaxy. Across human space, the news of the conspiracy spread. The rage that had fueled Operation Righteous Fury grew even stronger, but now with an additional purpose. Humans weren't just fighting for vengeance anymore. They were fighting for a new future. A future where humanity would never again be manipulated, controlled, or underestimated. The Void Fortress loomed against the stars, its jagged black structure bristling with weapons. Around it, the final battle of Operation Righteous Fury raged. Human ships engaged Void defenders, while Commander Harris led the ground assault. "Breach teams, move in," Harris ordered as his forces pushed through the outer defenses. The combat suits of his soldiers glowed brightly, channeling their controlled anger into enhanced strength and speed. Inside the fortress, the Void Supreme Commander watched the battle with growing desperation. Screens showed human forces advancing steadily despite heavy resistance. "They won't stop," said his second-in-command. "We've thrown everything at them." The Council promised they would help. The Supreme Commander growled. "Where are their ships? Where is their support?" "Gone," replied his communications officer. "The Council has fractured. No help is coming." The Supreme Commander's red eyes narrowed. "Then we make our final stand here. No surrender." Outside, Harris's team reached the main entrance. Void defenders poured fire at them, but the humans advanced relentlessly. Captain Ward led a flanking team, using captured void vehicles to draw fire. "This is for Horizon 4, Ward shouted as her team blasted through a defensive position. Harris's combat suit registered his rising adrenaline, but kept it controlled, channeling the energy perfectly. Around him, his soldiers fought with grim determination, their movements precise despite the fury driving them. They wanted to see what humans could do when provoked. Harris told his troops as they prepared for the final push. "Let's show them." On the Retribution, Admiral Gray monitored the assault. Reports came in from all sectors of the battle. "Commander Harris has breached the main levels of the fortress," reported his tactical officer. "Void resistance is heavy but breaking." "And our space forces?" Gray asked. "The last Void ships are disabled or retreating. We control the area." Gray nodded, satisfied but not triumphant. This victory had come at a high cost. The screen showed the names of ships and soldiers lost in the campaign. Each name reminded him of the price of war. His communications officer turned from her station. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender signals from multiple Void outposts. They're laying down arms." Gray's eyes hardened. "Accept the surrenders. No reprisals. We're not like them." "Sir," the officer looked surprised. "Justice, not vengeance," Gray said firmly. "That's what separates us from those who planned this war." Inside the fortress, Harris and his team fought their way to the command center. The blast doors were sealed, but human engineers quickly set up breaching charges. "Ready, Commander," said the lead engineer. Harris nodded. "Do it." The charges blew the doors open. Human soldiers poured in, weapons ready. Inside, the Void Supreme Commander and his officers stood waiting. "You've won this battle," the Supreme Commander said, his voice harsh. "But you haven't won the war." Harris kept his weapon aimed. "Actually, we have. Your forces are surrendering across the sector. You're the last holdout." "The Council will never allow humans to have such power," the Void leader insisted. "They feared you before. They'll fear you even more now." "You're right about one thing," Harris replied. "They should fear us, but not because we want war." He looked at the Void leader with contempt. "They should fear us because we know the truth now. We know they used you to test us. We know they were willing to sacrifice thousands of innocent lives to keep us controlled." He lowered his weapon slightly. "You have a choice. Surrender and face justice, or die here. Either way, this war is over." After a tense moment, the Void Supreme Commander placed his weapons on the floor. One by one, his officers did the same. As Harris's team secured the prisoners, they discovered data stores containing the complete records of the conspiracy, names of council members involved, details of the planning, everything. "Send this to Admiral Gray immediately," Harris ordered. "The galaxy needs to see the truth." 3 months later, representatives from 20 species gathered on Earth. The setting was symbolic, the rebuilding site of Horizon 4. Where once there had been only destruction, new structures now rose. Admiral Gray stood with President Wilson as the delegates arrived. Many were former council members who had opposed the conspiracy. Others represented species that had never joined the council. "Are you ready for this?" Wilson asked Gray. The Admiral looked out at the gathering. "Leading a war was the easy part. Building a peace that lasts will be harder." Dr. Miller joined them, carrying new plans. "The reconstruction of Horizon 4 is proceeding ahead of schedule," she reported. "And I've adapted our combat suit technology for peaceful purposes. The same systems that channeled adrenaline can be used for medical treatments and disaster response." Gray nodded approvingly. "From weapons to healing, that's humanity at its best." Commander Harris arrived with the last delegation. Since the capture of the Void Fortress, he had become a symbol of human resilience and determination. His unit had been named the Line Breakers in recognition of their role in the war. "The memorial is ready," Harris told them quietly. At the center of the new settlement stood a simple monument. The names of all who died in the Horizon 4 massacre were engraved in stone. Around the monument, trees from Earth had been planted. symbols of life continuing after destruction. President Wilson addressed the gathered representatives. Today we honor those whose deaths sparked a war. But we also look to the future. The old council is gone. In its place, we propose a new galactic alliance, not built on fear and control, but on respect and truth. She gestured to the plans displayed for all to see. Each member equal, each voice heard, decisions made openly, not in secret conspiracies. Many of the representatives nodded in agreement. The council's betrayal had shaken their faith in the old system. They were ready for change. After the formal ceremony, Admiral Gray walked alone by the memorial. A delegate from the Selith approached him. "Your species continues to surprise us," the Selith said. After discovering such betrayal, many would seek vengeance on all who were part of the council. Gray looked at the memorial. Vengeance is easy. Building something better is harder, and worth more. You controlled your rage, that Selith observed, even in victory. No, Gray corrected. We didn't control it. We channeled it. There's a difference. He turned to face the alien directly. The conspirators were right to fear humanity's potential, but they misunderstood what that potential truly is. Later that day, Gray gave the final address to the newly formed alliance. His words would be remembered across the galaxy for generations. We didn't want this war, but we finished it. Now we build something better, not with naive trust, but with clear eyes. The line was broken, and through that broken line, we found a truth. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our rage or our technology. It's our ability to rise from destruction and create something new. As the delegates departed, Earth stood at the center of a new galactic order. The species that had once been viewed as dangerous newcomers now led the way forward. The line-broken war had changed everything. Across the stars, a lesson had been learned. Humanity's rage was terrible when provoked, but their vision for the future was even more powerful. And Admiral Gray, looking up at the stars from the rebuilt soil of Horizon 4, knew that the true test was just beginning.